Good morning, students. Today we are going to see the new topic in sports biomechanics and kinesiology. Planes and the axis of a human body. Under the title, we are going to see the definition, meaning of planes and axis of human body, and what are the types of planes and axis are there, and what is the role of planes and axis in sports. So what is the meaning of plane? A plane is an imaginary flat surface running through the body. Here, the yellow color box is there. This called plane. So here, human body, three types of structures are there. Here, one type of plane is there. Here, another type of plane is there, and here, third type of plane is there. So imaginary flat surface. This is the imaginary flat surface running through the body. Running through the body. This is the flat surface running through the body. This is called as plane. Here, the plane, name of the plane is sagittal plane. This type of flat surface is called as frontal plane. And third plane is transverse plane. It is different from other two. So the imaginary flat surface running through the body is called as plane. This is the plane. And what is the meaning of axis? An axis is an imaginary line at right angles to the plane about which the body rotates or spins. The axis helps to rotate the object. Any object, if an object rotates, there is a plane and there is a axis. With the help of axis, the object rotates. The direction of rotation is called as plane, and which helps to rotate. The straight line passes. It may be an imaginary line. Sometimes we can visible, sometimes we cannot visible. We cannot visible, sometimes visible is there. So here straight line, whatever may be, if an object rotates or getting spin, definitely there is an axis is there. The axis also three different types are there. Here one type of axis straight line is there. Here another type of axis is there, and in third picture different type of axis is there. So according to the plane, the axes are fixing. Here the axis name is frontal axis. In this picture, this is called as sagittal axis. This is called as vertical axis. So the axis helps to rotate the object, whether it may be visible or it may not be visible. For example, if the fan wants to rotate, if fan rotates, there is an axis, it is a fixed axis. At the same time, if we will swing the arm and throw the discus also rotate, but there is no fixed axis, but there is an axis. This is the difference between the axis imaginary line or non-imaginary line. So axis is there. If any object rotates, there is an axis will present, sometimes imaginary, sometimes it may be a direct visible. So next slide, the types of planes we are going to see. The plane, the first plane is sagittal plane. What is the meaning of sagittal plane? Sagittal plane is perpendicular to the ground and divides the body into left and right. Kindly you noted the word divides the body into left and right. So which is the sagittal plane? This is the sagittal plane. This plane, this surface divides the body into left and right. This plane divides the body into left and right. This is the plane. This is the plane. So the imaginary surfaces divide the body into left and right. The plane is called as sagittal plane. Which is the example? For example, forward roll. If you try to roll forward, that forward roll is called as sagittal because your movement is in the sagittal plane. If you move forward, that movement is called as sagittal plane. Your movement, the plane of the object is in the sagittal plane. So example, sprinting, somersault or forward roll, these are all the examples for the sagittal plane movement. And what is the meaning of coronal or frontal plane? Usually you used the word frontal plane. So what is the meaning of frontal plane? This is also perpendicular to the ground, but here divides the body into dorsal and ventral. It may be a posterior or anterior or back and front. So the imaginary surfaces divide the body into front and back. This is the frontal plane. Frontal plane, this is the frontal plane. The surface, flat surface divides the body into front and back. This is the plane. So that's why this plane is called as frontal plane. The frontal plane divides the body into front and back. are anterior and posterior. What is the example? The cartwheel. If you try to do the cartwheel position should be in the lateral position. That movement is called as frontal plane because the body moves in the lateral. How it goes? It goes by the frontal plane. It divide the body into front and back. That's why this is called as frontal plane. The third one is transverse plane. What is the meaning of transverse plane? The transverse plane, another name is axial plane or cross-section plane. These are all the common questions in the competitive examination. The another name is axial plane or cross-section plane. So divide the body into cranial and caudal. It means a head and tail, mean upper and lower. This is the transverse plane. This is the transverse plane. The imaginary surface divide the body into upper and lower. This is called as transverse plane. This is called as transverse plane. The example 360-degree twist on trampoline. If you twist in the trampoline, you are rotating yourself. That is called as transverse plane. The movement takes place in the transverse plane. It divides the body into upper and lower, head and tail. Likewise, it divides. In next slide, we are going to see about the axis. So three axes of rotation. The sagittal axis. First one is sagittal axis, passes horizontally from posterior to anterior. So this is a sagittal axis, passes horizontally, but it from posterior to anterior, it passes through the posterior to anterior or anterior to posterior. This is called as sagittal axis. The axis is sagittal, but the plane is frontal plane. When the body moves in a frontal plane, so there is a sagittal axis present with imaginary line, a straight line. With this axis only, the frontal plane take place. So this is called as sagittal axis. The sagittal axis, the intersection of sagittal and a transverse plane. Where this is a transverse plane, this is a sagittal plane, this is the intersection area. The sagittal passes through the point. This is called as sagittal axis. Now we are going to see about the frontal axis. It passes horizontally from left to right. Which is the frontal axis? This is the frontal axis, but it passes from left to right or right to left. This is also a horizontal line, but it passes from left to right or right to left. This is the frontal axis. But the axis is frontal axis, but plane is sagittal plane. If an object moves in a sagittal plane, the frontal axis will present. If you try to move forward, there is an axis. That axis is called as frontal axis. But your movement, the plane is the surface, the imaginary surfaces. The plane is called as sagittal plane. So sagittal plane and frontal axis. And third one is vertical axis. Passes vertically from inferior to superior. This is called as vertical axis. Another one name is longitudinal axis. The longitudinal axis passes vertically from superior to inferior or inferior to superior, up and down it passes, but it helps for the transverse plane. So if an object rotates in a transverse plane, for example 360-degree rotates in trampoline, there is a transverse plane, but the axis is longitudinal or vertical axis. So with the help of longitudinal or vertical axis, only the 360-degree rotation will take place. So each and every plane have a separate axis. According to the axis, the plane will take place. The rotation will take place. So what is the role of planes and axis in sports and games? Planes and axis are fundamental concepts in biomechanics because we are analyzing the movement through the biomechanical principles. So planes and axis closely related to the movements of the body parts and movements of the action and movements of the skills. So it is a fundamental concept of biomechanics and are used to describe the different types of movement in a human body. Yes, we can easily analyze which type of movement take place in a human body. For example, if an 100-meter sprinter wants to move forward, he must go in a sagittal plane. Sometimes in the beginning stage, what the sprinters are doing, they are going in the frontal plane and come to the sagittal plane, then frontal plane, then sagittal plane. Automatically, the movement will not in a correct position. So the error will come, the injury will come. So likewise, if you want to analyze the movement, so we need the knowledge of planes and axis. Every movement occurs in a specific plane and around a specific axis. Yes, each and every movement have a specific plane. For example, sprint is a sagittal plane, cartwheel is a frontal plane, rotation is a transverse plane. Likewise, each and every movement have a specific plane. So we must understand the nature of planes and axes, so we can easily analyze the movement of the players. And understanding these concepts in front of the analyzing movement in sports and games for preventing injuries. Yes, so some of these skills we must follow only in a frontal plane, sometimes sagittal plane, sometimes the transverse plane. If an athlete does not understand about the movements of the particular skill, the injury will take place. So if you understand the concept of planes and axes, we can easily prevent the injuries. We can recommend to the athlete to do the proper way. So up to this, we can stop this class, and we will see another topic in the next class. Dear students, thank you very much. We will see in the next class. Thank you very much.